I hung out with two women last night, and so now I have bad things to say about men. I'm not going to say any of those bad things. I'm not going to say any of those bad things. I just want you to understand that that's the way things are going right now. Every time I hang out with a woman, in whatever capacity, no matter how many, this is what happens. I hear a story, I roll my eyes, I mutter under my breath, and I start to think, what am I going to rant about tomorrow? To undo this, to rebuild the trust that's been broken, men are going to have to be on our best behavior for a decade at least.
I just had a man who owns a home in Orange County almost have me split a bill of $24 or so on a first date.
It's like once the pressure was alleviated from performing so that he could sleep with her, he started to be his real self. Ain't that something?
I was like, you should probably change all of this to be truthful. And then he said, but if I change all of that, then I won't get any matches.
Bingo. On some real shit, like on some real for real shit, y'all. I really and truly don't understand why men argue with women about women's experiences with men. I don't understand it at this point. I don't get it. I don't know how often I did it, as a collective. I don't know if I ever really remember like arguing with women about what they experienced with men personally. I would argue with my girl, I would argue with my wife, and that's similar. Don't get me wrong, but it's me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, that's me. Wait, I'm here. But like I don't get arguing with women about their collective experiences with men. I don't understand it. I don't know where we got the audacity, but it must be on sale because we have a lot of it. It looks like we can afford all of it. And I'm very confused by it. But listening to men like get I'm sorry, get what they would call pink pilled in a way, and then them like being like, man, yeah, man, men are crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? It's funny. It's very interesting. But I've been saying this forever. I won't say forever, but since I've been doing this channel, I've been telling men just listen to women. Like, if you want to know how fucking batshit crazy men are and can be, just listen to women. You don't have to ask them to tell you shit. Just listen to them. Just have conversations with them. You know what's interesting? When you want to know about the dynamics between men and women, most of the way that I have discovered it isn't even by women telling me their collective stories and experiences. It's not even that. I mainly see it in how they deal with me as a man. And I'm like a woman will do something and I'll be like, like I wonder why she did that. I wonder why she said that. Like I did a video on this a while ago, but it was his man. He was talking about how when he first started to date his wife before they were married, he planned a trip out of town to like Las Vegas and he went to go pick her up. And the whole way there, she just kept asking him about the trip. Like, not, you know what I'm saying? She was like, are you sure you booked the room? Are you sure you paid for the tickets? Are you sure? And he was like, yeah. And by like the third or fourth, he was just like, the third or fourth time, he was just like, why do you keep asking me that? And she was like, oh, because pretty much like every other man I've ever dealt with has been incompetent as fuck. So I'm just making sure because I've always had to make sure, to follow up. That's like what I'm saying when you talk about like if you just observe how women act, they act differently than men, and it's not because men are from Mars and women are from Venus. It's because women are socialized to act a certain way based on how men move. Like a woman not being standoffish with the man, a strange man that she just met. To you, it may turn you off. To you, it may be like, she being a bitch. She being, all that shit men want to think about women. To me, I go, it's understandable because men are fucking nuts. You know what I mean? Like I don't take it personally. I'm like, oh, okay. I have in the past. Don't get me wrong. I have. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying though, I don't take it personally anymore now with my understanding that I have about women. I'm like, oh, okay. I see why they act like this because look at how crazy men are. Look at how men act. Men. I start to have that conversation with myself internally. That's really all you got to do. You don't even really need to ask women or like, oh, let me get these story times and all. You don't even need that. But they definitely help. They definitely help you understand women better. Right? So let's get into that.
I hung out with two women last night, and so now I have bad things to say about men. I'm not going to say any of those bad things. I'm not going to say any of those bad things. I just want you to understand that that's the way things are going right now. Every time I hang out with a woman, in whatever capacity, no matter how many, this is what happens. I hear a story, I roll my eyes, I mutter under my breath, and I start to think, what am I going to rant about tomorrow? Now, here's the thing. It wasn't just two women. It was also the partner of one of those women. So it's me, him, two women, and like nothing he said, nothing I said radicalized me to the point that I'm like, I need to talk about women today. This is life at the moment, people. And yeah, look, because of TikTok, maybe my brain is geared towards thinking about things in a very specific capacity, and maybe people like to tell me stories. And so I hear a lot of stories. One stories that I'm not going to share. I don't need to share them. They're horrific. Some of them are like seriously dangerous. Some of them are just awful. But that's where I'm at. I go home so often after nights of hanging out with a woman thinking, oh my God, I can't talk about men again. Can I? Can I? And then the next night I'll hear another story. I'm meeting another woman tonight, a friend of mine, an old friend. And this all makes me think I have to stop hanging out with women in general. And obviously I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. They're great. They're awesome to be around. And before anyone asks, none of this was romantic, right? It's my friend and his partner and then her friend from work. Like, this is just people hanging out, chilling. And yet those stories are still coming up. Like, dude, what are we going to do? That's the real question. What are we going to do? Because here's the thing. To undo this, to rebuild the trust that's been broken, men are going to have to be on our best behavior for a decade at least. And I'm not joking, for a decade at least. When I did that video a couple of days ago saying women have hope, I'm not saying because it'll be fixed tomorrow or in a week. I'm saying because maybe that we're ready to admit there's a problem. Maybe we're going to start looking forwards. Maybe we're going to realize this is long work. I think about that a lot, when it comes to power, about white supremacy or patriarchy or anything else. Like, if today's the day, if this is the video or another video makes you go, yeah, there's a problem. Now settle in for the job. It's not a week. It's not a month. It's not a year. It's 10.
It's a lifetime.
It's 20. It might be your whole life. It might be your entire life before things start to feel fixed. Or at least to have steadied the ship enough that these women don't have a reason to hate us.
And that's the beginning, like he said. But what did he say? He said he went out with his friends and then he was just listening to the things that the women were telling him. I could imagine some of those stories went similarly to this.
I just had a man who owns a home in Orange County almost have me split a bill of $24 or so on a first date. Let's get into it. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin. So this guy, at first I was like, WTF, but we ended up having like really good conversation after because I just was straight up and was like, yeah, you're not getting a second date. And then after that, like, conversation became very candid, and it actually was like just like a very intriguing conversation. But here's what happened. So first I show up and he sends me a location where I think we're gonna go to this cafe and we're gonna get food or like a dessert or something. Like, it's the location of a cafe. I pull up and he goes, let's go for a walk. So we're in this downtown area. I was like, whatever, let's just do this. So we're going for a walk. And then he basically has no plan. And then afterwards he was like, well, I already ate dinner. Mind you, it is 6/7, like dinner hour. So clearly I have not eaten because I was like, well, we're going on a date. And he sent me a location to a place with food. So I thought we were going to eat. And he's like, oh, well, I already ate. And in my head, I was like, that's fine. Like, I'm just going to end this date and then I'm going to take myself out to eat. No biggie. There's plenty of restaurants here. I'm going to get myself dinner. Anyways, then he goes, oh, well, you're hungry, right? And I was like, yeah, I could eat. So then we end up going somewhere and he's like, I'm not going to eat anything, but you eat. So I get a burger and he gets fries. No issues there. The food comes. This man is like eating his fries so soon. And like my food's not even here yet. So I'm just like watching him eat his fries as I'm waiting for my food. And he's like, oh, do you not want fries? And I was like, well, I do, but I would prefer to eat it with my burger. So it's all good. So then we're like chit-chatting and he's telling me, he keeps bringing up the fact that like Asian women like white guys. And he keeps saying that I must have dated a lot of white guys. I have not seriously dated any white man in my life. I have no issues with them, just have not been compatible with any so far. So I'm like, okay, this guy's very interesting. And then later, later the bill comes, and because he only got fries and I got a burger, and I also knew there's not going to be a second date, I was like, oh, do you want me to get some of that? But I didn't tell him there wasn't going to be a second date yet. So I was just like, oh, like, do you want me to get some of that? And he was like, yeah, if you want to split it, it's up to you. And I take a look at the bill and it's like $24. And I was like, I mean, yeah, if you want to split $24. So then I was like, well, I was like, I hope they take Apple Pay because I don't have my wallet on me. He's like, I don't have my wallet on me either. And I'm like, okay. And then later he's like, okay, I'm going to go up and pay the bill. And I was like, okay, I'll come with you. And he's like,
I feel like at this point they're just standing there, they're just staring at each other like the motherfucking Spider-Man meme. Like, what the fuck? I don't have my wallet. Me either. What? What are you doing, bro? Well, I guess you don't need I mean, you could just pay with Apple Pay. I pay with I'm an Apple Pay motherfucker, so I ain't judging. But yeah, that's a lame excuse. Why are we making it this difficult? Pay the fucking bill. It's $24. God damn. Plus a tip. Leave him 30. Call it a day.
okay, I'm going to go up and pay the bill. And I was like, okay, I'll come with you. And he's like, no, it's fine. I got it. So he actually did end up paying the bill. And then as we're like leaving the place, I'm used to guys opening my door. So I'm standing there and he's not opening the door. And then the server happens to be on the outside and opened the door. And I thought that was hilarious. And then he was telling me how he really likes Asian women. And I said, why? And he said, because Asian women are very feminine and like all these things. So I'm like, okay, interesting. But then later, as we're walking back to the car, we're somehow getting on the conversation of kids. And he was like,
You know what's funny about that? He likes Asian women because of how feminine they are, but he doesn't like to perform masculinity. He wants it. He his idea of Asian women sounds like he thinks they're submissive and he thinks they're feminine. That's usually what men talk about when they talk about femininity from a woman's perspective, or as it pertains to women. But he didn't want to do any of the traditional masculine things like pay the bill, like open the door. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't practicing chivalry, but he wanted her to be very feminine. So I wonder what his idea of femininity is then. I don't know if she asked him that, but I think that that's very funny because, like if you go out of your way to say you like women, like Asian women especially or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that, because I know it to me, is a dog whistle. If you're going out of your way to say that or you believe that, then shouldn't your actions reflect that you want that type of woman? Meaning, like, if I wanted a traditionally feminine woman, I would be like traditionally masculine. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be me and my whole fucking full blown modern progressive brain, like, which as progressive as I am, I still get the door for my woman. Like, duh. I'm still gonna pay the bill, whatever the case may be. Because last time I checked, gender roles still exist, and the patriarchy still exists, and women are still oppressed. So until that goes away, I'm still gonna do the traditional man things, but I'm also gonna. That doesn't like me being progressive in how I feel about women and gender dynamics doesn't mean that I stop doing the things that men conventionally do. It's that I stop expecting women to do the things that the patriarchy conventionally foists upon women. That's a completely different thing. She can do those things if she wants to, because that's what feminism is about. Is about giving women the choice to do the things they want to do. If a woman wants to stay home and work, if a woman wants to stay home and take care of the kids, stay home and take care of the kids. If a woman wants to go to work, go to work. If a woman wants to be president of the United States, be president of the United States. If a woman wants to run a fucking Fortune 500 company and run it into the ground, let her run it into, like men do it all the time, right? I support women's rights and wrongs if that's the case, right? I'm not like I'm not here to like try to like police women in any way, but me myself, I can police myself, and I'm still going to do. I'm gonna open the doors. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna pay the bills. I'm gonna pay the rent. I'm gonna do those things if I can, because that's society is still fucked up for women. So, that's what it is. And I'm never gonna expect a woman to do any fucking thing for me. That's crazy. That's how I feel about it. But if I were a man like that, I would definitely be all about performing masculinity in its most traditional form, because that's the woman I want. See what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm just weird. It just seems like these men just want their cake. They want to eat their cake and have it too.
asking me how many kids I want. And I told him, and I was like, what about you? And he's like, oh, unsure. And I was like, unsure, like you don't want kids, or what do you mean? And then he was like, yeah, I may not want kids for another basically like 7 years or so. So I told him straight off the bat, because he had asked me earlier whether or not I think we'd have a second date. I was like, well, there's your answer. Nothing against you, but I don't want to wait 7 more years to have kids. So I don't think we're compatible. Therefore, we don't need to go on a second date. And then after that, after I said that, that's when we started having like very candid conversations. Like, we talked about like the male loneliness epidemic. I asked his thoughts on it. It was very interesting that like he wants a feminine woman, yet he didn't want to pay the bill. I mean, he ended up doing it, but like, you know, wasn't really going to pay the bill. Didn't really have a plan for the date, and also doesn't open doors or like doesn't really do anything that's masculine. So it's like, okay, sir. Just very, very interesting. So we're talking about a ton of things. We end up going through his dating profile. Like, he pulls it up and he's like, do you think I look like my pictures? And I was like, I mean, you don't not look like them. Like, I didn't look at you and think that I was catfish. And I was like, do you think I look like my pictures? He's like, oh, I think you look even better. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. But we're basically sitting, we're having like candid conversations, and he tells me how he's a pessimist, and I'm an optimist. So I was like, okay, that's already not working. And he basically like talked about having a family and kids as a burden. He's like, what if I wake up one day and I don't want that anymore? I'm like, okay. And he also said that he wants to eventually move to Southeast Asia, like the Philippines or Thailand, and basically get with hookers there. I was like, very interesting. At this point, it's just like entertaining. Like, it was an interesting interaction.
So he was just, so that's the thing. It's like once the pressure was alleviated from performing so that he could sleep with her, he started to be his real self. Ain't that something? He never had any intentions on marrying, or that's not, but he's not telling the women that, obviously. See, so the next woman he dates, the only way she's gonna find out when it's too late, pretty much. She's gonna find out after she sleeps with them or whatever the case may be, if they get that far.
So we're looking through his profile and I'm looking at stuff, and then it says, the don't have kids open to children part. And I pointed that out. I said, it says open to children here, but you just told me that you don't know if you want them. Like, probably don't want them. And he's like, yeah, I'm open. And I'm like, okay, what percentage? And he's like 10%. I'm like, you should probably change that then to not sure. So he's like, okay. And then I looked at the long-term, he said he wanted a long-term relationship on the app. But based on our conversation, he's basically looking for like a friends with benefits type of thing. And I was like, you should probably change that. And then he also talked about like polygamy, but he said he wanted monogamy. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So then I was like, you should probably change all of this to be truthful. And then he said, but if I change all of that, then I won't get any matches.
Bingo. They know. They know. And that's what I've been saying about men, that men just don't want, like, men don't want to be viable options for women. Instead, they would rather mask as viable options for women. They would rather put in all that effort. They would rather put in all that effort into masking than to putting in all that effort into being the actually being a better person, or just being honest. And you might have to work harder. The thing about men too that lie like this is because the thing that's crazy is because if you're not going to get as many matches, but you have to think the women that you do match with are going to be like, y'all going to be locked the fuck in. Like, if you do get a woman to match with you, and there are women out there that are down for a lot of this shit, if you get a woman to match with you, you're good to go. You don't have to waste time. You don't gotta go out on a bunch of dates. Like, you already know, dude. Like, she likes you. She saw all of that. She saw you say you don't want kids. You're not really in for long term. You're open to polygamy. You want to move to Thailand and fuck hookers in 10 years. And you still get a match? Oh my God. That's wifey. Or not. Or that's a one night stand. Whatever. It just sounds like you want to have sex with the women anyway. So I'm like, that's the thing. It's so crazy.
And then I was like, so what I'm hearing is you don't respect your time or other people's times because you're basically going to live in a lie and waste people's time. And he was like, well, no, not exactly. And he's like going back and forth. And in his prompt, he said he wanted somebody that knows what they want. And I was like, if you want a woman that knows what they want, and you're not even being truthful on what you like, what is happening? But yeah, when he said that he was a pessimist, I knew it wasn't going to work. I'm an optimist. He also said that he hates humanity, he hates humans. And I was like, if you hate
He hates women.
humans, why are you here with me, another fellow human? Like, a lot of things that he said were just contradictory, and I would just point that out. We did have like good, candid conversation. It wasn't like blamey or anything. Like, at this point, we're just sitting down, two adults that know we're not compatible, and just having a conversation. And I'm just asking him what I want to ask. And he kept saying like, you made me tell you all these things. I didn't make him do anything. I said I didn't have a gun to your head asking you to open up to all these things. I just knew what questions to ask.
He doesn't have any friends. He doesn't go to therapy. He doesn't write in a journal. He doesn't unpack any fucking thing. And that's why this conversation, he wanted to have this conversation as much as she did, I'm sure. He needed to get this shit off his chest. He needed to unload this. Do you think I look like my profile picture? Ask your buddies. Ask one of your homegirls. Oh, you don't have any? Gotcha. Gotcha.
Um, and he was like, oh, I was like, if we went back in time, would you have lied about your answers based on what I asked you? And he was like, yeah, I would have lied. And I'm just looking at him like, are you okay, sir? And I was like, why would you lie if you know that eventually it's not going to work out? We're not compatible. So wouldn't you just want to cut to the chase? I'll move on to my person. You move on to yours. We are all good. And then he also told me how he liked me. And I was like, what do you like about me? Like, what could you possibly know about me? And he's
He liked her hair.
like, oh, I like that I'm attracted to you. That means you're attracted to me. That doesn't mean you like me. Like, you don't know me. Okay.
Was this an adult male or how old was this man?
Best of luck to everybody out there. Very, very interesting world we live in. And then, like, when we went our separate ways, I was just like, happy Thanksgiving.
Damn it, man. The women are like, hey, they're having these interactions with men in the wild, and men are fucking batshit crazy. And you imagine, I mean, she shared the story with the internet, but yeah, imagine being her friend and her sharing the story with you, and you're a man, and you are like open to listening to women, and you know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't like this wouldn't blow your fucking mind. You wouldn't be like, what the fuck? I see what you guys are talking about now. I do this every day. Like, I see every day. I can never be at 100%. I can never fully understand women, right? I try to. I do. It's not to say that I ever go against anything they're saying, but I'm just saying, like, I can never fully understand it. I don't believe because, like, I'm not in their bodies. I don't experience the world in that way, right? But I can get pretty fucking close if I'm willing to listen. If I'm willing to hear them out, I can get I get close enough. You know what I'm saying? Where the difference is negligible between what I understand and what they actually go through. And I'm inching towards that every day. And I'm doing that simply by listening to them. That's it. Hearing their stories. And I'm listening to men too be batshit crazy. And that also kind of pushes me along as well. But yeah, you know, I don't even know. Men just get it together. It's crazy.